All right, it's time to ask the question, are the Bengals bad? What happened to Cincinnati? A team that is kind of known for starting slow, but still, they're not usually known for being 0-3. And in fact, the numbers for 0-3 teams are not too great. Teams that go 0-3 make the playoffs less than 3% of the time. There have only been 6 times in NFL history where a team started off 0-3 and went on to make the playoffs. None of those teams went on to go to the Super Bowl. So, for the Cincinnati Bengals, yeah, not great numbers, although it's worth mentioning that usually if you go 0-3, it's because you're not very good. I think if the Bengals are going to be good this year, you assume that it's just because they had a bad couple of games, right? Not that they're actually just going to be losing to everybody. But still, they've lost to everybody so far, so let's talk about why. What's going on with this team as of right now? Well, I got some charts to talk about. First, we can start off with this one. This is where they rank in each positional category according to a PFF grade. And again, I know PFF isn't everyone's cup of tea, but I think they're pretty good, and at the very least, this can be a jumping off point. So, passing, PFF says Joe Burrow's been good. I agree. Rough week 1, but really good weeks 2 and 3. So, yeah, I'm on board there. Pass blocking has been fine. Run blocking, not so much. Running game, kind of fine as well. Receiving, pretty shockingly low, actually. You have Jamar Chase, who's very good, but PFF has not been crazy about these secondary Bengals receivers, and especially with being without T. Higgins. That certainly has been a part, but the offense, I thought played pretty well, especially last week, but did not play great against the Patriots and did not play, it made some plays against the Chiefs. That was kind of a down to the wire game. It was fine in that game, but yeah, receiving as a whole has not been as dominant as you usually expect with the Bengals. Run defense has been fine, but pass rush, the other massive issue, which is 28th graded pass rush so far through 3 weeks. Coverage, again, fine. Nothing's really great here. The only category where they're top 10 is passing, so that's an issue. But let's kind of talk about pass rush and isolation, because that's, I think, a big issue so far for the Bengals. If you look at each player, this is where they rank according to PFF grades. You see Trey Hendrickson, 23rd best edge rusher according to PFF. He's been very good. I agree. Hendrickson's doing a lot. The issue is he's kind of having to do it all. I mean, Sam Hubbard is 106th graded edge rusher so far through 3 weeks. Joseph Osai, 104th. So not a lot of other pressure off the edge. And for the interior defensive linemen, not a lot of help there either. Sheldon Rankins has been the best at 80th, but that's still like a, that's not a starting level defensive tackle, right? Usually there's 2 defensive tackles, maybe 3 on some teams, but with 32 teams, that's usually like a good rotational guy is the 80th best defensive tackle. He's their star defensive tackle at this point, so it's an issue. You're expecting someone who should be a rotational guy to be your best player. It's not going to work out. BJ Hill, Zach Carter, and Jay Truffle, the other guys who have enough snaps to qualify, not doing a lot so far. So when you have this much lack of pass rush and your coverage unit really isn't that great either, like, it's creating a real issue. If your coverage is good enough that you can give these pass rushers time to get to the quarterback, okay, you can make something work, but with a mediocre coverage unit and with this rough pass rush, it's just not working right now. So are the Bengals screwed? I mean, maybe Sam Hubbard could step it up. That is something that can happen. But I want to now go to the Bengals' schedule. This is every team on the schedule. Sorry if it's a little small, but hopefully you can still read it. They do have some winnable games on the schedule. Worth mentioning that they have yet to play a divisional game. So they play the Steelers twice, the Browns twice, and the Ravens twice, which, divisional games are fluky. I think usually in the AFC North, you kind of expect everyone to go 3-3 because there is so much good teams there. But the Browns have had a down season. Maybe you could, if you are in fact good, go 2-0 there. So there's 3 or 4 wins to be had in the division. But that still means there's 2 or 3 losses. And if we're going to say they go 3-3 in the division, this now already puts you at 6 losses. And in the AFC, I don't think you can get in with 9 wins. I think you need at least 10 wins to get into the playoffs. So that means they can only have one more loss on the schedule. And who else do they play? Well, let's go through it. They play the Panthers. Again, you would assume would be a win, although Andy Dalton looked great last week, but still a winnable game. The Giants, another winnable game. I'm going to skip the divisional ones because we already talked about that. But the Eagles, that's a good team. That could be your one loss you have. The Raiders, again, a winnable game. The Chargers, they might not have Herbert, another winnable game. The schedule isn't that difficult. Cowboys haven't looked great to start the year, but I would still say there's a chance right there. You have the Titans, another team where I would say you have a good chance at winning. And then the Broncos are the last team on the schedule. So, it's totally possible in that stretch they could just drop one game and then they can go 3-3 in the division. That's well within the cards, I think. The issue is, I'm saying you're going 7-1, and there's one game where I'm not even sure if they'll be favored in against Philadelphia. So, if that's the case, if you're going to lose to the Eagles and win every other game, I don't know if it's crazy to say that they could be favored in each of those games, but having to go 7-0, or I guess I should say 7-1 in an 8-game kind of sample size, that's really difficult to do if you're the best team in the league. If you're a team that has some issues, that just seems tough. And it's also worth mentioning, I don't think they've had a super tough start to the year. I mean, okay, the Chiefs is tough. The Chiefs, that's a loss that's kind of you expect. They were able to keep it interesting, but weren't able to win. But that's okay. That's one you understand. But the Patriots and Commanders, listen, I think Jaden Daniels had a really good game. I think he's playing well. All that stuff is true. But still, your defense couldn't stop them at all. I mean, they scored on every drive, which they've done back-to-back weeks now, but still, that's an issue. The fact that you lost to the Patriots, a team that has really looked awful outside of that game, that's an issue. And being 0-3, I mean, again, they're not dead. Are the Bengals dead? No, they can come back, but their margin for error has pretty much evaporated, and they might need to beat the Browns twice to make the playoffs. That might be how they get in, but I don't know. They play the Browns in the final month of the season. Jameis Winston might be playing by that point. That could be an issue. Not to mention, I'm assuming they can get a split with the Ravens and with the Steelers, but that's not a safe assumption. We've seen both of those teams play tough. I mean, the Ravens also haven't started off this season too hot, but they could find their groove. They were the 1 seed just last season. You could have a scenario where the Steelers, who, I mean, that defense has always given Cincinnati trouble, they could win both games. The reality is, the Bengals are in trouble, and with a 3-game deficit already, they need to start getting some wins together, and they probably are going to have to beat a good team or two to get into the playoffs. The Bengals also aren't dead, and if you get T. Higgins back, and if you can get something out of Sam Hubbard, get him back to at least a decent player again, I think things could change, and you could start to feel a little better about where you're at. But as of right now, again, I'm not willing to say the Bengals are dead. I'm just not. But they're in a tough spot, and they're going to have to really not have any more of these bad losses, because there's 2 bad losses on their resume, on their schedule already, and that's basically all they had room for at the start of the year. So no more room left. You got to start racking together wins. But that's what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all, and of course, as always, thanks for watching.